Hello, Professor. Thank you for such an interesting assignment and for such an interesting course. I think it's very valuable information that AI won't really be able to replace. So, thank you for your knowledge. Today, we'll be comparing the waterfall versus agile methodologies and how they approach the project phases of initiation and planning. The waterfall method is one of the earliest and most traditional approaches to project management. It works in a linear, sequential way, like a staircase you move down one step at a time, or a waterfall. Changes are difficult and costly once a phase is complete, so you complete one phase fully before moving on to the next. Very little looping back. The strength of the waterfall method is in its predictability. When requirements are stable and unlikely to change, waterfall gives clarity, documentation, and structure from beginning to end. Agile takes almost the opposite approach. Instead of one long linear path, it works in short cycles. They're called iterations or sprints. You deliver small increments of work regularly, gather feedback, adjust, and continue evolving the project. It emphasizes continuous collaboration, adaptive planning, and incremental delivery. Teams work in cross functional units, regularly assessing priorities and incorporating feedback. Agile embraces change and uncertainty as a natural part of the development process. Requirements can shift, new insights can emerge, and the team adapts in real time. I think even the mindset of the Agile method is good to have in the culture of any company or organization, especially with climate change and end stage capitalism arriving at a point where uncertainty is almost all we have. We're going to need adaptation to figure out a more sustainable, nurturing way of living that follows and supports nature's circularity. The same circularity from methodologies such as the Agile one, which are consistently learning and evolving, also like nature. Stage one is the initiation phase, where it all begins. The goal is simple but essential: define what the project is and why it matters. This is when the project is formally defined and authorized. You identify the problem or opportunity, develop the project charter, identify key stakeholders. You basically conduct all assessments and approvals required to determine feasibility and success. The purpose is to confirm that the project is worth doing and aligned with organizational goals. Essentially, it answers the question: should we do this? Once initiation gives the green light, we step into planning. This is where we figure out how the project will be done. The goal is to build a detailed roadmap that informs on the triple constraints, the work breakdown structure, allocated budget and resources, potential risks and their mitigation strategies, communication plans, and quality expectations. The outcome is a clear guide that supports execution. In other words, here's exactly how we will do this successfully. Waterfall and Agile both use initiation and planning, but very differently. Because Waterfall is linear and structured, the initiation phase, which defines the structure, defines the project. There's also an extensive planning phase to provide these details upfront, which are expected to stay stable throughout the entire project. The two phases are distinct and sequential, like everything in the waterfall method. Once you're down one level, you continue following gravity. In Agile, these two phases blend and repeat themselves over the course of the project. There's a focus on the greater vision rather than deep detail, with high level planning happening in the initiation phase and then being adjusted or readjusted with each sprint. Agile expects change, and so it embeds flexibility in the planning process. Essentially, Waterfall front loads all initiation and planning work, assuming you can predict the future, and Agile distributes it throughout the project, acknowledging uncertainty and challenges that will arise. The waterfall method is best suited for projects with well defined requirements and minimal expected changes. Projects that you can't iterate halfway through, like, for example, construction projects, where specifications must be exact and changes mid construction are extremely costly. Regulatory compliance projects is another example where implementing new environmental reporting systems have legally fixed requirements. Infrastructure projects, such as installing solar panel arrays, engineering specification, permits, and supply chains need to be known before planning can start. And then on the other side, Agile is best for work such as climate policy development, where awareness campaigns created through community engagement platforms, they evolve depending on stakeholder feedback. Or developing climate modeling software where requirements emerge as scientists test and learn from the process. In communications, your messaging must be refined based on audience response to your content or writing. In adaptive management projects, whose name says it all. For example, ecosystem restoration projects where strategies adjust and adapt based on results and monitoring. To figure out which method fit my work structure, I looked mostly into my current field and where I want to go. But this analysis is also informed on past experience on a variety of different roles. For this moment in time and in my current work state, Agile is clearly the superior methodology. To be a proper communicator in an environmental field, you need awareness of public and media perceptions, as well as the current algorithmic preferences of social media and digital platforms. The effectiveness of your work requires continuous measurement and adjustments, which should ideally be informed by stakeholder feedback. There's almost no stability in this evolving work schedule. You must be in a constant state of flow with external inputs. So, for sustainability strategizing, especially during this moment in time of transitions, ESG standards and reporting frameworks are constantly being updated. Even the PMBOK has been newly updated to shift how we approach project management. The only constant in this world is change. So, we must create strategies that adapt to these changes in regulation, technology, market conditions. To eliminate client needs, we use collaborative discovery, not upfront requirements. Everything has a potential of evolving into a different state. Even success metrics often need refinement when insights from implementations become known. For eco consulting, it's similar. Clients and organizations don't exactly know what they need when a project starts, and then we discover what is needed through assessing and testing. Unpredictable challenges surface all throughout projects, but incremental wins and visible progress increases trust and buy-in, or the opposite. Wherever there are people in change, there's also the potential for sudden unexpected shifts. Adaptive and agile approaches are best for this environment. The agile method has some specific advantages to my field of work, starting with sprint based delivery, which allows clients to see value quickly. For example, an initial carbon footprint assessment before a roadmap to full decarbonization. Regular check ins keep engagement up and ensure alignment within authority levels. And then the transparency of continuous communication builds trust and buy in for the project. Agile's flexibility accommodates budget constraints or shifting organizational priorities, and its iterative learning approach means strategies improve as you gather data and feedback from the process. However, the waterfall method still applies in some aspects. For example, deliverable based contracts. Some clients require proposals that have fixed scope or fixed contracts. Compliance reporting reports have fixed deadlines and formats. Certification processes where getting a certification follows the sequential steps and requirements of the waterfall method, and grant funded projects where funders may require details upfront, plans, fixed deliverables, etc. Ultimately, communication, strategy, and consulting work is inherently collaborative, emergent, and responsive, precisely what Agile is designed for. Clients in this space value adaptability and partnership over strictly following initial plans that may become obsolete with the next evolutionary cycle of standards, of regulation, of culture, and mindset. The best approach is to use Agile as a default with Waterfall reserved for specific deliverables with fixed constraints. In conclusion, while both waterfall and agile methodologies have their place in project management, understanding when to apply each approach is crucial for success. In the dynamic field I'm currently in, and to a certain extent every field that operates within the biosphere of this planet, the ability to adapt, learn, and respond to emerging challenges often determines whether projects create real impact or just deliver documents. As we face increasingly complex environmental challenges, from climate change to biodiversity loss, our project management approaches must be as adaptive and resilient as the solutions we are trying to create, or as the natural world which supplies the majority of our project one way or another, from raw materials to the energy used to power our technology. The most effective environmental practitioners don't rigidly adhere to one methodology, but thoughtfully select and blend approaches based on project context, stakeholder needs, and the nature of the problem at hand. By embracing Agile's flexibility while respecting the structure that certain situations or regulations demand, we can ensure our environmental work remains responsive, relevant, and ultimately more effective in driving the sustainable change our planet urgently needs.